Thank you, Eric. Thanks again for the opportunity to be back. For those of you that heard me last year, I apologize. You have to hear me again. But hopefully I've got some new things to share with you regarding an antibiotic stewardship project that we've put together within our veterinary practice. That project is called PART, Pipestone Antibiotic Resistance Tracker. And a shameless plug, you can go to the website that's listed right there as well. So go ahead and log on. It's meant to be interactive. A little bit about who Pipestone is before we start talking about what we're doing in regards to antibiotic stewardship. We're a private veterinary practice located in Pipestone, Minnesota, which is the very southwest corner of the state of Minnesota. We have our roots as a general practice providing veterinary service to all species of animals. Over the course of about the last 25 years, we've been blessed with considerable growth, and we've focused now or driven a great portion of our business now is working with pig farms and pig farmers. And so we spend about 90% of our time and resources in the swine world, but still have our roots in traditional veterinary practice. We have 40 veterinarians on staff today in 6 locations. As I said, we're focused on independent producers, so we're not an integrated production system, but we are a veterinary clinic that provides service to independent pig farmers. And one of the services that we've provided today is a farm management service whereby we manage breed-to-wean operations on behalf of independent farmers who pool their resources to build a sow farm, allowing them to capture the economies of size and scale of modern sow production. But yet then those farmers bring those pigs home to feed on their own individual family farming operations. And so today we have about 75 sow farms under our management and about 250,000 sows in total sow population. We employ about 1,200 people and have about 1,000 plus U.S. farmers as our customers. And we've also been active in providing service now in Asia and Latin America, building on some of the same models and services that we do here in the U.S. So we established this Pipestone Antibiotic Resistance Tracker about January 1st of 2017, and we launched that to coincide with the increased veterinary oversight as it related to both the feed grade and water soluble antibiotics here in the United States. And being a company that is owned by veterinarians, we felt it very important that we show leadership in the area of antibiotic stewardship. And so we launched PART to increase that visibility as well as hopefully demonstrate leadership, focusing in really 2 things. What PART is intended to focus on is tracking antibiotic resistance and demonstrating responsible antibiotic use. We're very intentional in the language here in that we're not about reducing antibiotics because we believe that responsible antibiotic use should be the focus, and we clearly want to focus on what the public is concerned about, and that's antibiotic resistance. And so I'll elaborate a little bit more on those 2 areas. Just a little bit, I've kind of already said this, so I'll skip over that slide. Just some facts about our PART program. It is a voluntary producer program that's offered to our customers. They do pay a subscription fee. We have about 154 producers who are voluntarily subscribing to this service. And with the sow farms that we have in the program, that would account for about 5 million wean pigs per year. And then we also have, through the grow-finish producers that participate, about 3 million market pigs in the program that would encompass about 80 farms or production sites. 24 of our swine veterinarians are involved in this program with their customers. And so we do annual veterinary visits and quarterly reviews with those customers, looking at their antibiotic use, which I'll talk about a little bit later in our benchmarking system. The project is solely funded by our company and the subscription fees by the producers that participate. We have ongoing research activities, which I'll share with you in just a moment. And then we're also attempting to do some outreach with what we're doing inside the program. Again, as I said, we're focusing on antibiotic resistance. And one of the things that as we began to study this issue, we found that there was significant effort looking at antibiotic resistance as it's related to human health and food safety, mainly through the NARMS program, CDC, FDA, USDA. One of the things that we didn't find was a significant amount of research as related to antibiotic resistance by antibiotic use at the farm level. And so we decided, because our producers were concerned about that as well, that that was an area that we would look at and focus on. When we talk about antibiotic resistance at the farm level, our project is attempting to look at and track antibiotic resistance from a veterinary-based perspective, which means we're looking at the pathogens of animals, swine in particular in this case, and then also from a food safety perspective. How does antibiotic use on the farm? What does that look like as it relates to the organisms related to human health? And so most of us are familiar with the traditional veterinary-based approach to looking at antibiotic resistance and how we approach it as a veterinary practice. When our veterinarians go to a farm, identify sick animals, we collect samples, as Mary described, and then we're going to send those samples off to a diagnostic laboratory where a culture and sensitivity will be done. And then based on the sensitivity results, that will give us a direction on what we should do with respect to prescribing antibiotics. We've been doing this and receiving these kinds of reports ever since I came into veterinary practice over 20 years ago. And so what we decided to do as it relates to antibiotic resistance is we thought, well, let's go back and look at all of the case submissions that we've made as a veterinary practice over as far back as we can go. And so we have culture and sensitivity data for all of the submissions of swine origin for Pipestone that go back to 2001. And so what we did is we developed what we call our resistance index for 5 swine pathogens, which would be Strep suis, Haemophilus parasuis, Actinobacillus suis, E. coli, and Salmonella. And we assigned a 1 or a 0 value to each of those sensitivity tests for all of those organisms that we've grown that go back about 17 years, which then gives an index of relative resistance. And so what we found when we graphed this was that the relative sensitivity or resistance to the pathogens that we were dealing with on pig farms is not changing, at least according to this index measurement. We then went and pulled the same information for all case submissions to Iowa State University that goes back for roughly the same time period, and also found very similar results. So this we thought was an interesting way of looking at how is our use over time affecting the relative resistance of pathogens of pigs. And what we see is, at least by this measurement, it seems pretty flat. We also wanted to look at what antibiotic use on farm may be reflected in resistance for human pathogens. And last year, in my presentation, I spoke a little bit about a pilot project that Dr. Scott D. had done in some of our farms, looking at the relative ability to isolate the 4 NARMS pathogens, and then looking at resistance data from those isolates on farms with varying antibiotic use. He's expanded his pilot project now to include not just on-farm measurements, which he's continued to do for the last 12 months, but he's also expanded it to some other locations within our Pipestone community. And so here you can see Dr. D out collecting samples for his monthly pilot project surveillance. You can see obviously the farm sampling that he's doing in that pen of pigs, but he's also collecting samples from our companion animal veterinary exam room. He's collecting samples from a children's playground in town, and he's also collecting samples from the local Pipestone wastewater treatment facility. A third area where we're looking to focus on and better study antibiotic resistance is in a project that we're supporting and that we're also happy to have National Pork Board funding for, and that's one of our veterinarians, Dr. Carissa Odland. She's a practicing swine vet in our clinic. She's also taking master's courses at the University of Minnesota, focusing on antibiotic resistance. And so we're doing a project where she's placing pigs on feed and then exposing them to various levels of antibiotic therapy. We're going to track and collect samples and track antibiotic resistance through the lifetime of those pigs. In a brand new BSL-2 facility that we've just established that helps us better control for the environment and maintain the isolation of these groups. And then we're going to follow those pigs all the way on to harvest. And so we're very excited about this project and the funding that Pork Board and others have put into it to help us better understand what antibiotic resistance looks like at the farm level as it's related to pathogens of human interest. So that's what we're doing in the area of studying resistance, at least at our practice. The second area that I want to briefly touch on again is this whole area of stewardship and responsible antibiotic use. And that's the piece where our producers come in, and what we've done with PART is we've created a platform whereby independent pig farmers can measure and track their antibiotic use through our platform. And today, I think it's safe to say it's the only public benchmarking antibiotic use platform for independent producers. And so our taglines for this project are record, review, and respond. We heard Ernie Meyer this morning talk about their 3 R's in their stewardship program, a little bit different than ours, but that's what we're looking to do. Record the antibiotic use, review that use with your veterinarian, and then respond by making the appropriate management, health, etc. decisions at the farm level with that information. So again, we shared a little bit sort of the magnitude of the project as far as who's involved. And really what we have is an output that looks a lot like this. We're tracking, this is a web-based platform, so each producer that participates has their own login ID. They can go on our PART website, they can log in and look at how their antibiotic use is measured, and so we can track it by the form of administration, we can track it by the particular drug type, we can track it by the classification of the medications as their relative importance to human medicine, etc. And then how do we benchmark? What we've chosen to do is really establish 3 categories of use, which are oftentimes dictated by the health of the pig the farmer is receiving, the location of where those pigs are raised based on disease pressures, etc. And so we have least use and intermediate antibiotic use and a classification for high use or most use. And so then we can show a producer where they fit within our benchmark based on which classification they fall into. And then we can also show where they track over time with respect to the rest of the producers that are participating. We've chosen, as I think Katie mentioned, how do you choose the right benchmark? And so we've gone round and round about what's the metric we're going to use to measure use. We landed on grams per head. And so that's what we chose to do. That's how we're showing this, and we can have long debates about which is the right metric to use. This is the one that we've chosen and where we're going to go for a while. In the end, we all know that antibiotics are just a piece of the comprehensive approach that we take to managing and improving the health of animals. And so when we talk about a comprehensive approach to health at Pipestone, we're talking about how are we designing facilities in which we'll raise pigs? What are the biosecurity practices that we're putting in place to keep disease out? What's the disease status? And which diseases are we going to choose to eliminate? We're very strong believers in disease elimination, and we think we've been leaders in that area. We've done a lot with air filtration. We have nutritionists on staff that help us feed the pigs in the best way. And again, you can see vaccination and antibiotics are important, but they're not the whole picture either. And then finally, one of the things that we've tried to do over the last year and a half is to learn and share. And so an event like this is a great opportunity for that. I appreciate the opportunity to be here to share, but also more importantly from what I've learned today and yesterday from all of you. We've done some outreach here. You can see some of the groups that we've worked with, that we continue to work with, and I would like to extend an offer to hopefully collaborate with maybe more of you that are here participating. Thank you very much.